Matt Radzalowski framed up our Sportsman's Workbench last week. This week, he added the shelves, 3/4-inch pine board, 6 inches wide. They rest on quarter round for supports. We'll store lead bullets and boxes of shotgun shells on these shelves, so we don't want them to bow in the middle under the weight. We just put a few shelves up to start. We'll add more later. On the model, Matt figured the workbench top would be 3/4-inch plywood, which he put on with an extension on each side for the reloading presses. We want to load metallic cartridges on the right-hand side of our workbench, and this is a metallic cartridge reloader. You reload one shell at a time, so it's actually a minimum of equipment, but you need a good solid bench. Now, around the edge of this, Matt has 2x4s on end, and because this has a moving part to it down here, this would dig into the 2x4. So Matty had to notch that out, and we set the reloader right in there so it fits and it works, and we anchor it down with a couple of washers and wing nuts. And we're set up now on the right-hand side of our workbench to reload metallic cartridges. The shot shell side is a little more complex. The progressive reloader is larger with more moving parts, so Matt cut a few extra holes in the top so we could customize this operation. That's the beauty of making a workbench like this. Now we can set the shot shell reloader on the left-hand side, and Matt put those bolts in so they fit exactly. We anchor this down with wing nuts real quick so we can take this off if we want to move it. Now you might wonder what this hole back here is for. Well, in looking at John DePoit's workbench, we use this as a substitute for his around-the-corner shell chute. Now that extension on the shell chute, what's that made out of?
Just a piece of aluminum I had.
Did you rivet it to this?
Yeah, it's riveted to this shell chute here because it's not made long enough.
Because you wanted to turn the corner.
I wanted to turn the corner and drop into a bucket.
I like John DePoit's method of dropping the loaded shells into a bucket. Now, one thing we're doing here is we're putting some fabric in the bottom of the bucket to deaden the sound. But my shot shell reloader here is different than John's was. John's had the shell chute coming off the front and he wrapped it around. This one has the shell chute going off the back, and this was a little longer. So what Matt and I decided to do was to cut the shell chute off, make it a little bit shorter, put a hole in our workbench top, take some PVC pipe to make a tube, and here's how it works. We drop the shells right through the top of the workbench and into the bucket. Slick, huh? There they are, collecting in the bottom. And we have some reasons for that we're going to show you on next week's show. There's another procedure that John did. When you take the primers out of the shell, like this, the machine pushes the primer through and drops it into a tray. There's the primer that came out. Now, the problem with this tray is that you can get primers piled up, and it'll actually interfere with the operation of the machine if they get too high and you're not paying attention. So what John did, very ingenious, he ran a copper tube through the bottom of his workbench underneath his reloader where the primers fall, and then he ran that down to the floor into a milk jug. So he collects all his primers down there. I thought that is a cool idea because you never have to worry about them stacking up. But we wanted to do that same type of thing, a little more simple. Matty drilled a hole through the top of the workbench, right under where the primers fall. We found that this cardboard box that we bought some screws in fits really well underneath here. And this theoretically could hold thousands of primers. Let's see if we can hear it drop into the box. There we go. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I can stack up thousands of primers in there and not worry about them jamming the machine. Well, next week, we're going to put the finishing touches on this workbench, get things into operation. Matt has some roughs on here to anchor to the siding. We're going to build a little gun rack in here. We got lots of things to do. You're going to see how this finishes off, so be sure to join us for that. It's going to be pretty darn cool. Be able to reload shells.